We're performing a requested video today, and this one is on the greatest states to retire comfortably. I believe that the majority of people who are retiring do so on some form of a budget. But I believe that many people would like to know where they might live cheaply in retirement without having to emigrate. The simplest response to that is, of course, to ask which states are the least expensive. Mississippi, we delved a little deeper for this list because West Virginia, Arkansas, and Alabama all have low cost of living and reasonable real estate and rent pricing. We first looked at the 20 states with the lowest taxes, and then we looked at each state's percentage of residents over 60. It's difficult to provide rent medians for an entire state because they will obviously vary quite a bit depending on where you are in a state. So we went by how much lower than the national average their overall rent prices are. It's not the most accurate way to look at it, but it gives you an idea. So that's what we're doing today. Let's take a look. Alabama. Alabama belongs to a group with a few other southern states. It is rife with halfbacks are a term for retirees who relocated halfway back from, say, New York. It's not really halfway back, it's just a word for those who moved halfway back from Florida, or who did Florida for a bit and changed their mind. It's fantastic that Alabama is the first state to receive a retiree quality of life score of 80 or higher. The cost of living in Alabama is modest, with affordable housing, low healthcare costs, and rent that is 9% less expensive than the national average. The population is older than 60 in 19.1% of cases. That's an excellent number compared to the national average, which ranges from 18.1 to 18.333%. Whichever research you consider when I give you these tax numbers, keep in mind that they change frequently. As you'll see later in this list, some of them are changing next year. In Alabama, Social Security is not taxable, nor are pensions. However, distributions from 401(k)s and IRAs are partially taxable. The retiree quality of life in Alabama is 83. Number 9, Tennessee. The fact that so many young people are relocating to Tennessee is sort of strange, and a lot of it has to do with the music. The only reason Tennessee isn't lower on the list is because some of its cities have some crime. Tennessee is definitely a tax-friendly state for retirees, and really for everyone. It has no state income tax on wages and a relatively low overall tax burden. Property taxes are also not too bad in Tennessee, making it a good place to live on the cheap. Memphis is the largest, of course, but many of their tiny communities have more than enough resources. Percentage of crime is also present. It's awful. Is it something you should merely be aware of, without a doubt? The number of golf courses in Tennessee is also very low. In 2022, there were just 287 golf courses in the state. Texas has almost 900 and California almost has 1,100. Florida has quite a few, but I was unable to obtain an exact count. I know some of you are wondering why golf courses matter when they matter a lot to a lot of people. Tyrese enjoys a small number of activities more than other retirees, including golf, fishing, gardening, and early bird discounts. In Tennessee, there are 21.7% people over 60. Their monthly rent is 7% less than the national average. Here are the tax figures. That's wonderful that Social Security, pensions, 401, KIA, and IRA payouts are not taxed. Their score for retiree quality of life is 83. Number 8, Arkansas. One of these states that draws people in is Arkansas, where the cost of living is quite low. There are many reasons not to relocate to Arkansas, but the high cost of living isn't one of them. Instead, Arkansas offers low-priced housing, utilities, and healthcare, making it an excellent option for retirees on a tight budget. Despite some weather, Arkansas is a beautiful state and is known as the natural state. If you're a retiree who enjoys fishing, this is a terrific option. If you also enjoy gardening, this is also a great option. Just be sure to tell your pals that you reside in Arkansas. However, Arkansas is one of those states where you don't anticipate seeing many retirees, but they exist. In Arkansas, 20.2% of the population is over 60. They would also be higher on this list, like number 3 or number 4. But they have many retirees who live in poverty, and unless you're in the northwest corner of the state and you're a retiree looking to pick up a part-time job, you're going to struggle to find a part-time job anywhere in the state outside of the northwest corner. Let's look at the number. Social Security in Arkansas is not taxed. Pensions are tax-advantaged, however. Some pension plans are eligible for an exemption of up to $25,000. Therefore, very good IRS and 401 KASs are taxed. But here's where Arkansas really shines. The rent there is about 17% less than the national average, which is not bad. There are plenty of programs for retirees in this state, and they receive an 85% quality of life score for retirees. Number 7, Mississippi. Mississippi, they don't typically appear on good lists, so it's encouraging that they were ranked 7th on this one. You should relocate there, but you must be retired. If that applies to you, they are a fantastic fit. If you do decide to relocate to Mississippi for retirement or any other reason, stay far away from Jackson. I would want to travel as close to the Gulf as possible from Mississippi, the state capital. Moss Point, St. Louis, Biloxi, and Gulfport, even Hattiesburg, is reportedly improving a little. Hattiesburg, they actually have a fairly low cost of living and much to keep them occupied during their commute. If you're retired, avoid the undesirable areas and relocate to Hattiesburg because scores are up for healthcare. Housing is affordable and unemployment is down. Mississippi is a state where you may likely live well, yet 20.1% of the people there is over 60. Rent is 16 less than the national average. Social Security, pensions, 401k, and IRS are not taxed, and Mississippi has a retiree quality of life score of 86. Number 6, Georgia. The Peach State doesn't have the lowest cost of living, but it still has a fair standard of living. Moderate tax climate in general. It's a really good place for retirees with plenty of golf, gardening, and fishing, and pleasant weather. What really puts them on this list is that they have a lot of activities for retirees to participate in and a variety of programs, especially for veterans who have access to plenty of veteran health care. In Georgia, where 18.8% of the population is over 60, rent is 1% less than the national average. Their Social Security is not taxed, while their pensions and 401k ESA are partially taxed. 88 is a good grade for the retiree quality of life in this area, charged. Number 5, Kentucky. Kentucky has excellent healthcare, especially for the older population, because they tend to get a little chilly, and although there are many regions in this state that aren't the best, it's not a bad place to retire, especially when you consider the cost of living and the low cost of housing. If you want to stretch your money, consider moving to a tax-friendly area. However, once you leave the city, be ready to encounter stuff like a man operating a tractor while holding a beverage in his hand. What else is typical in Kentucky, other than what you just said? Kentucky is undoubtedly a gorgeous state, but it's wiping right on a second cousin. Additionally, given how reasonably priced it is and how much you can enjoy nature, it's not a bad option. The population is older than 60 in 19.9% of cases. Now, their rent is excellent to 11% less than the national average, and they're fine in terms of your retirement funds. Retirement quality of life in Kentucky is 88 because Social Security is not taxable. Pensions are slightly taxed, 401k, ESA are not taxable, and IRS are not taxed either. However, these figures vary frequently and will soon alter once more. Number 4. Missouri. Missouri is a strange state. Mississippi is similar in that it seldom ever appears on lists unless they are bad. But on the other hand, it's also like Kentucky in that it only sometimes appears on lists. The good news is that when it does, it will be cheap and it will be affordable for everyone, not just seniors. Missouri has affordable housing, adequate healthcare, and reasonable transportation costs. On average, their vehicle insurance is one of the cheapest in the country. I always have to include the average because otherwise someone would point out that mine is quite expensive. What are you referring to? I actually responded to someone's email, so I wasn't making the movie for you, mate. I was just talking about averages. And told them that, I forget the subject, I know well, I didn't make the video for you. I was talking about averages, you know, for everyone. And I swear he emailed back kind of sounded like you were. Just talking to me, asking, are we missing some medication today, pal? Missouri is a great state to be outside because there are so many incredible things to do outside. Like the Lake of the Ozarks, Branson, Missouri people forget about out. Missouri occasionally exists, but it has some awesome things to do, especially if you enjoy being outdoors. You enjoy being outside and doing activities like fishing. In Missouri, there are 20.2% people over 60. Here's why it gets a bit strange in Missouri. Not only is their rent 11% less expensive than the national average, which is good, Social Security is partially taxable. Pensions are partially taxable. 401, KAS and IRS are taxable now. And on January 1 of the following year, I believe Social Security is not. Longer taxable, pensions are no longer taxable. IRS are decreasing in taxation, and they are undoubtedly moving in the right direction. In Missouri, retirement quality of life is 89. Anything beyond 75 should be mentioned. Is respectable, anything greater than 80 is excellent. Number 3. Arizona. An excellent spot to retire. Is Arizona? Everyone understands what I mean when I say that retirement is an option. If you prefer warm weather and detest gardening anything other than cactus, they think of Florida and Arizona. And if they have a lot of money, they think of Hawaii. If you've never lived in Arizona and decide to relocate there after moving from the East Coast, pay attention to what the locals advise you to do, such as not buying a car with vinyl seats. Arizona is a terrific spot to retire. If you sit down in that seat while wearing shorts and leave your car in the Arizona sun for 10 minutes, you'll need a skin transplant. Several years ago, there was a video compilation showing how a Walmart employee removed all of the security cameras from the parking lot. He created a compilation of individuals getting out of their cars quickly after sitting down on the seat that you could probably boil eggs on nowadays. I believe it was at a Walmart in Arizona. Arizona isn't the most costly state, but it's also not the cheapest, which is why many retirees choose to settle there. This state deserves to be on the list since it has a lot to offer, and there are some reasonable areas if you know where to search. Then, if we go a bit deeper into this topic, say, if I do cities, I'll most certainly indicate some locations in Arizona where the smaller towns are unquestionably more reasonable than, say, downtown Phoenix or anything like. I wouldn't claim they are half as expensive. Over 60 EESE make up 23.1% of the population of Arizona. Despite the fact that their rent is 6% higher than the national average, which is terrible, their Social Security is not taxable. Their pensions and 401k RAS are both somewhat taxable, but they are excluded up to a maximum of $25,000. Thus, this one is somewhat unrelated to the topic of the video. However, it also has other features, and in some locations, the quality of life for retirees is unquestionably affordable. 90 in Arizona. Number 2, Iowa. Retirement was made for Iowa. In fact, most people begin to behave like retirees in their 30s. There are a lot of people watching Wheel of Fortune at home in Iowa, which is ranked 6th in the US for affordability overall, housing expenses specifically, living a comfortable life, paying modest utility bills, and receiving quality medical care. The disadvantage is that, while Iowa has quality healthcare, there aren't many big cities that tend to offer the greatest services. If you move to a small town, you may have to travel a little bit to visit a specialist or something similar. And if you're like me and enjoy visiting proctologists, this can be a little bit of a pain. Of a bother there. I almost said pain in the ass because 23% of Iowa's population is over 60. It's an intriguing fact, while I have no idea what the situation is with the 55-year-olds, since 10% of the population appears to be between the ages of 55 and 60 if you include people who are 55 and older. There are 2 distinct studies. Although I have no idea how accurate the second one was, I found that to be interesting. That group of individuals would have had a nuclear weapon sometime during the Cold War. The rent in Iowa is 13% below the national average. Social Security benefits are tax-free. Pension benefits are tax-free, and guess what? Roth 401k contributions are tax-free. The quality of life for retirees in Iowa is 92%. Number 1, South Carolina. The state of South Carolina is fantastic. If you wanted to retire somewhere, you'd probably like it more and more every day. Most people will probably think of Florida, but many individuals, as I previously mentioned, travel to Florida, decide they don't like it, and then return halfway to New York, which is South Carolina. This isn't exactly halfway, but you get the idea. They are known as halfbacks. Compared to many other states, South Carolina has a lower cost of living and offers a variety of affordable housing options, tax reductions, and affordable healthcare expenses beyond Florida. It has a great climate and plenty of recreational options, making it the ideal state for seniors who are active. Seniors, I would remark that there is plenty of golf, lawn bowling, and amazing gardening facilities. Coastline is a gorgeous state all around. It isn't the least expensive on this list, but it isn't all that expensive like other coastal states. If you drive 3 or 4 miles inland, prices drop significantly. If you can afford to move to the Charleston region, you should do it immediately. Bluffton is also reasonably priced. Greenville is not awful, and practically every city has a few golf courses. James Island, a Charleston location. Charleston, they have 2 or 3 golf courses, I believe. Among such cities, Charleston is one that I love. Charleston because it's such a laid-back coastal town with so much history. One of these days I have to visit. I spend a lot of time on Zillow, looking at homes there. Merely stay in Charleston for a month, but if you decide to retire there, or to South Carolina as a whole, you can look forward to 21.5% of the population being over 60. If you relocate to Charleston, rent is often 2% less expensive than the national average. It's more like 16 above. Pensions are partially taxable, Social Security is not, and 401k IRAs are partially taxable. And they do have a state income tax. Now I bring this up because I recently did a video where I mentioned a state, South Dakota, didn't have a state income tax, which they do. They don't, I lie. 10 comments from people going South Carolina doesn't have a state income tax. I love it up, they defiantly do. The retiree quality of life score for South Carolina is 94. They receive a 94 because it is a reasonably priced state with few crimes and fun things to do. Okay, good. That concludes the video for today. We sincerely hope you enjoyed it and learned something.